What's going on, everybody? It's going to be a recap on ES and NASDAQ. We're going to cover what went down today and how you could have traded this chop. So for today, ES pulled back a little bit. We are down about 50 points from the open, relatively staying within yesterday's range, so nothing too crazy. We did have a bit of a sell-off in the afternoon, mostly due to headlines, but overall in the morning, you just kind of picked a level, picked a value that you liked, and you just chopped and rotated around that level. For today, little snapshot before we move on. Bond market's down about 0.9%, dollar up about 0.6%, euro down about 0.7%, oil is up 5.5%, Bitcoin USD is down about 2%, and gold is pretty flat. Looking at NASDAQ, pretty much the same exact story. Sold off for about 200 points, about 1%, closing about the halfway point of yesterday. Same thing, chopped around in the morning, and then found a value that it liked in the afternoon after a bit of a bearish headline came out, and then chopped around that level as well. So taking a look at our trade plan from today, how did it work out, I guess you would say? We were looking at holding above 82. We were going to look for a breakout of value into 6102, 6140. Obviously, that did not happen. Holding below 51, we were looking for 24 and 81. We almost got that 24 level. And as you guys know with my trade plans, if there is a gap in between my holding above and holding below level, that means there is a rotation there. So we were looking for rotations from the 82 level to the 51 level, which pretty much played out the entire day up until about 12:30. So if you guys traded the pre-market, we were just kind of bouncing back and forth between those two levels. And then around 12:30, you finally started to break out of that morning value. NASDAQ, pretty much the same story. We were ranging between this 115 level and this 965 level. And then holding below that, we were going to look for 866. Unfortunately, we were not able to get there. But same thing, rotated between those two levels pretty much the entire day until about 12:30. Now looking at the order flow, how could we have traded today? Realistically, you only really needed one strategy today, and that was rotations. In the morning, you can see the A, B, and C session. We were all kind of chopping around that 75 to 72 area. The value high was around the high 70s, 75 to around 70, I think 8. And then the value low was around 67 to like 70. And it was moving around a little bit. That's why I'm giving you a bit of a range there. But the value low was around there. Value high was around there. And you were just selling the value high, buying the value low. And that worked until about 12:30. At 12:30, let me pull it up on the 1 minute here. You can see that sell pressure really started to ramp up. I can't remember exactly which headline caused that. There were so many headlines that came out today. But there was a headline that started this sell-off here. And then once you started losing that 24 and 80 MA, you were basically just looking for a standard rotation at that point, back down to 70, which was around VWAP. But then once you started to actually hold below that value low, that was a break of balance. So once we stayed below that 67 level, and we closed very strong, minus 4,500 delta, by the way, that was confirming a break of balance. And you can see on the TPOs, we had all that time spent up here on this upper node, and then we started to push down, and the second half of the day spent all of your time around that 40 to 45 area. And you can see on the way down, we were kind of just trending below the EMAs, the 80 EMA and the 24 EMA. You had one little bear flag into the 24, continued to sell. Bear flag 24, continued to sell. And you basically just did that for the remainder of the day. And then we had some single prints get formed, and we tried to fill them in. There were single prints going up to 51. And every single day for the past like 2 weeks, we have filled in these single prints before closing. Let me show you on my other chart here. So pretty much every single trading day, you can see going all the way back to June 3rd, we have filled in the single prints before closing. They were so close to doing that today. They missed it by a couple of ticks. but they did leave open a single print going into 51. So if you did see those single prints being formed, when you started to finally find support, you could have looked for that bounce into the single prints as a bullish trade. You just barely didn't get your target if you were looking for that absolute point. But if you did front run it by at least a point or two, you would have gotten your target there. And that was pretty much it. So most of the day you were just rotating around either the upper node, which was that 66 to around 78. Then you had that headline come out, you impulse down. The impulse down created single prints, and you nearly filled them in with one final closing spike. So not a whole lot happened today, not a whole lot of crazy high strike rate setups. You did have a couple of 30-minute sweeps. If you guys like trading the sweeps, you did have a couple of those. You had like one right here. You had one right here. You had one down here as well. But mostly just rotations, rotating the value nodes on the high and the low. But all right, guys, that's it for now. I'll see you guys in our next one. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.